Making custom bingo boards is one of those things that sounds simple but can get tedious. Back in 2013, I posted a video with an Excel bingo card generator file, and I was blown away by the variety and number of ways that people were using the program. Baby showers, birthday parties, quarantine games with far-flung friends and family, virtual graduation parties, DJ games, happy hours, restaurant placemats, and more. I also received a great deal of feedback that I've used to add features and refine the macro-enabled Excel file. You'll find a link to the file itself in the description below, or you can go to mrhosey.com/bingo file. This is a macro-enabled Excel file. It runs in regular Excel, the desktop version, and contains VBA code that I've written. This code allows you to generate bingo boards in bulk, and to run a live game with a leaderboard. Templates are highly customizable for board size, the option of a free space, you can force columns, you can have mandatory squares, and even design your own rules for making the board. Any changes you make to the template, such as font, cell color, inserted pictures, text boxes, and headers, will simply be propagated to the generated boards when you press the button. In addition to standard bingo numbers, you can easily toggle between customizable banks of squares and optional clues. I've included lists of sight words, as I like to play sight word bingo with my son. Once generated, you can easily print some or all of the generated boards. To get a copy of this free file, you can use the link in the video description or go to mrhosey.com/bingo file. That will take you to Dropbox, where you'll do a direct download of the file to your PC. The file will not work on smartphones, tablets, Macs, or the web-based version of Excel. You'll have to take it up with Microsoft. It does work on any sort of PC or laptop running regular Windows and what I like to call real Excel, the client version. You'll have to enable the code when you open the file because it has some VBA. That's what this message box is about. I think many of you will get the hang on your own and don't really need the rest of this video. For a more detailed demonstration, let's make a set of 30 bingo boards about US state capitals. First, you'll need to right-click on an existing template worksheet, create copy, right-click and rename. The worksheet is the template for your bingo boards. Any changes you make here will be propagated to the other boards: row heights, column widths, cell formats, fonts, text boxes, headers, images, pretty much anything you can edit normally. The file will take care of the labor required to populate the bingo squares and generate the desired number of boards. Let's spice up the generic template just a little bit. While you can insert rows directly adjacent to the board, you shouldn't have to. But do not insert rows or columns within the bingo squares. Above, below, to the left, or the right is okay. Let's press the Hide Instructions button, which will hide rows 1 and 2. And let's also turn on the page break view by pushing this button. Now we can clearly see what will be included on a printed bingo board. Drag the blue lines to change the print area. Let's include some more columns on the sides of the board and make them wider. Let's give the board a title, add a little color, change some fonts, over in G19, the generated boards will show the board number. H19 will contain an optional player name. I'll show you how to do this later. You can hide this row or clear these cells if you prefer, but let's look at the print preview. Any changes you make here will also be reflected on the generated templates. You can toggle landscape and portrait. Let's put in a small footer that lists a link to this YouTube video. You don't need to leave this on your bingo boards, but it is appreciated. I make the file free, just don't try to commercialize the code or present it as your own. But I enjoy seeing the web traffic and the comments and hearing stories of people using the file. Depending on your printer, under Properties, you may be able to print more than one board per physical sheet of paper. It's a common request. If the bingo user form is not showing, press the Start button, or you can press Ctrl and B at the same time. Notice the Enforce Clue column button. When checked, 1 to 15 appear under B, 16 to 30 under I, etc. When unchecked, any number can appear anywhere. Also notice the Include Free Space button. But we want states. See the clue bank dropdown? I have included many of the common sight word lists as clue banks. I like to play sight word bingo with my young son. We want to create a new clue bank. Let's name it State Capitals. The first column is the list of words that will be used to populate our bingo boards. Let's call them squares. The second column is an optional clue. In this case, we will call State Capitals clues, and players will look for the corresponding state name on their bingo board. Copy and paste is a great tool. See the yellow error message? We asked the program to enforce clue columns, but we never assigned our clues to columns. If we uncheck the Enforce Clue column, the state names simply get distributed randomly across the board. But let's have some fun and put the states into categories: West, Mountain, Central, and East. Change the board size to 4x4. The template takes care of hiding unused rows and columns. By the way, boards can be anywhere from 3x3 up to 9x9. Press Edit Bingo Clues. Under the 4x4 column, we need to enter forced column numbers, in this case between 1 and 4. Edit Template will take you back. Notice, if we check Enforce Clue Columns, the states appear in the correct columns. Pressing F9, or Function and F9 at the same time on a Mac, will trigger a worksheet recalculation, effectively creating a new bingo board. Now's a good time to mention that if you only have a Mac, all is not lost. You could press Function and F9, then print, then repeat. This is essentially what the VBA code does. Now it's time to generate the boards. We said we want 30. Usually you start from board number 1, but I will start from board 100 just to demonstrate. Push the green button for happiness. "30 almost certainly unique boards." The extra mix-up button, if you select it, will redistribute the chosen squares. When combined with Enforce Clue columns, this means we get the same number of clues from each category, but they are then scattered across the board. Mandatory squares is a comma-separated list of squares that are guaranteed to be generated on every board. For example, Alaska, Hawaii. Now every generated board contains these squares. While you can print the individual sheets, it is tedious, so you'll want to use the Prepare Boards button. If you have a large number of boards, you can choose to print a smaller range of boards, for example, from 100 to 104. Pressing the button will bring you to a print preview window. If you don't like what you see, go back to the template, make the changes, and then generate the boards again. If you did assign names to the board, and I'll show you how to do that in a bit, you can choose to print only boards with a player name. If your printer does not support multiple pages per physical sheet of paper, you might also print to a PDF and then use a website to print that PDF to another PDF with multiple pages per sheet. We can also use the program, again, press the Start button or Control and B, to actually run a bingo game. So if we press the Play Bingo button, this form will come up. Here are the 30 boards we generated. Right now it's blank because nobody's done anything. If I press draw, it's going to pull up the clue. Now we have states on our board. The reason you see Tallahassee and Florida is that we've checked show bingo square, but we've also checked show bingo clue. If this was a class and we were doing this to study, I might uncheck show bingo square, and now when I press the button, you're only seeing the state capital, and they have to know what city it goes with. Or you might do the opposite and say, we're not students, we just want to play some serious bingo, so you're only doing the states. So we'll do that. These are all 30 boards. We might not have 30 people playing bingo. So what we can do is first of all, we can choose not to show the leaderboard. If I turn off show leaders, it doesn't show you them. You can give the player boards names. So 106, that's now going to be Bill. 102 is now going to be Sally. And let's say 116 is going to be Steve. Now if I check only include boards with a player's name, now the next time I draw a clue, it's only going to update these 3 boards. So as you play, so if I keep drawing clues, you're going to see the scores change. So they all have similar scores. They've all got 4 squares. Sally and Steve both have 3. But if you click on their name, it will actually pull up their board. So this is board 102. This is Sally. If I click on Steve, it pulls up board 116. That's his board. And you can actually see which squares he has. You can sort by player. You can sort by board number. You can even use Excel to use its creepy computer voice to announce the drawing.
Indiana, Washington, Delaware.
Now, we've all been in a bingo situation where somebody's just too slow reading their board and they got a bingo, but you've already moved on to the next clue. So I built in the rollback button. So see Delaware and then Washington. Now Delaware's gone and all the scores are recalculated without Delaware. If we did it again, then Washington would be gone. And then if I draw again, you're going to get back Washington,
Delaware,
and then Delaware, etc. You can clear this button. That'll clear all the drawn clues. And I also want to point out that there's traditional bingo, but I've also built into it many, many different kinds of bingo patterns that can be a winner, and the scores will all recalculate. For example, 6-pack. We'll show you what that is in a second. Let's take a minute and actually go through the different kinds of patterns I built in. Now, if you're super hardcore and you looked at that list and you thought, I want to do something else, there is a way to do that. I'll talk about that after I explain to you what's under the hood of this program. But while we're on this screen, I also wanted to show you that you have the ability to change the how big this looks by increasing or decreasing the zoom. Maybe you have an audience that is ocularly challenged, or you have a projector that's very small. You can make this bigger or smaller with this button, and you can make the form wider or narrower as needed to accommodate that. I will just point out, and I'll get more into this when I talk about under the hood, there's something called calculation mode. If you have many, many boards, you'll want to uncheck this. The program will just run faster. Or if something doesn't appear to be updating correctly, just force a recalculation and then maybe put this in full calculation mode. The overwhelming majority of people aren't going to have to ever think about it. Part of me feels like no one cares, but if you're still here by choice, you are my people. I spent over 100 hours by this point, on and off, over the last 7 years tweaking this thing. There will always be another version, which is why I've kept a changelog in the file with links to previous versions. As of this recording, we're at version 27. You can always find the most recent version of the file at mrhosey.com/bingo file. But you're here to find out how this works. The heart of this file is the list worksheet. The populating of the boards is done through a series of formulas. In the orange area, columns A through H of the list worksheet, each possible square is given a random number. The squares are then ranked by that random number in column F, and clues are pulled into the bingo boards on the template. Anytime the spreadsheet recalculates, such as by pressing F9, the new values produced by Excel's RAND function result in new placements on the template bingo board, effectively creating a new card. When bingo columns are enforced, a similar ranking takes place, but the column number is included. So columns Y through BA on the list sheet are used to make this happen. Column U is kind of a long-term storage area for various variables and parameters. The VBA code reads and writes to this column so that the values persist. Columns I through L pull in the current score from each previously generated bingo board, where formulas are calculating the score. Column M is where player names are stored, which, by the way, you can add names in bulk simply by pasting the names here. Now, the rest of it is taken care of by VBA. VBA is called Visual Basic for Applications, and it's built into the desktop version of the main Office programs, and has been since at least, I think, 1993, something like that. To see the code, you can press Alt and F11 at the same time to bring up the Visual Basic editor. The vast majority of the code for this project is located in 3 user forms and 1 module. If you double-click on the bingo form, you'll recognize the VBA controls. Some simply link a value to the list worksheet. Others kick off some sort of code. Double-click something to see the code for yourself. The bulk of the 1,200 lines or so of code I've written are in Module 1. There are many subroutines and functions to handle things like repeatedly copying the template to a new worksheet or board, copying the current scores from the list worksheet to the list worksheet, and sorting, or I should say the leaderboard worksheet, drawing clues, and much more. I spent a great deal of time optimizing the code to reduce the amount of time required to generate boards and to update the leaderboard after each drawing. This is done primarily by turning off Excel's automatic calculation feature and only recalculating individual spreadsheets, and only when absolutely necessary. Additionally, unneeded formulas are deleted programmatically from the list and template worksheets. I could go on, but I'll spare you the details. Power users, and if you're still listening to this, chances are you are or aspire to be a power user. Do you have some really funky rules for building your bingo board? Or do you have an exotic pattern you'd like to use? As a power user type, you may have noticed the Use Custom Design Rules checkbox. Let's look at cell AL2 on the template worksheet. Only when this cell is true will a board be accepted. You can use a formula or series of formulas that culminate in true or false. Let's make a custom rule that the first cell must contain California. Your custom rules can be as simple or complicated as you like. You may want to use a couple formulas and then combine them. But really, whatever is in cell AL2, if that's true or false, and you have the checkbox checked for custom rules, that has to be true for the board to be accepted. Let's also look at bingo patterns. Look at the red area of the template near cell T9. These cells correspond to the bingo squares and are 1 if the square has been drawn, 0 if it is not. If you look on the far right of the template, starting in column AQ, you will see a list of the bingo patterns. Do not change the red cells. Instead, you're going to go to the bottom of column N in the list worksheet and add the name of your new bingo pattern. Go back to the template worksheet around column CR. Row 10 is a score you compute based on the ones and zeros in that region T9 to AB. That's sort of the logic of how you're determining when the bingo pattern has been met. Row 11 contains a formula that should return bingo when your formula condition has been met. I think I'm talking to like 1/10 of 1% of the audience at this point, but if you're there, I want you to know you can do this. It doesn't require any VBA code modification. Post a comment if you have any questions. If you've hung on this long, your prize is a marriage proposal? That's a silly use of Excel VBA. Imagine you generate 7 9x9 boards and convince half a dozen friends to help you out by playing bingo with you and your potential life partner. After 25 clues are drawn, 7 of you shout out bingo at the same time. Your future mate, who does not have one of the winning boards, is asked to double check the boards. Player 1, player 2, player 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Winner. Hopefully you. So how did you pull it off? Enter your list of clues like usual on the clue bank worksheet. Generate 7 9x9 boards. Then manually edit the 7 boards by typing clues in just the squares needed to write your message. Use the words in the order they appear in the clue bank. Use other words as filler squares. Now go to column AI of the list worksheet. This is where the rollback feature stores the row number of clues that were rolled back. It's like a stack. As you roll back, the row number is added to the bottom. As you draw, the row number from the bottom is pulled off. That gives you the ability to control the sequence of a drawing. This can be used for many purposes, but right now we are using it for good. Enter 2 to n, where n is 1 more than the number of squares you are scripting. If there's interest in this outside of my own head, I could make a helper file, or I could share my helper file with you that I've already made for this purpose and make a tutorial. Thank you for watching. I put some timestamps in for specifics. This has been kind of a fun project for me, a good diversion. If you do have any questions, you can certainly put those in the comments and I'll try to get to them as I can. Although as a teacher with young children, I think my life's going to get pretty busy pretty soon. So this has been a lot of fun and I hope it brings joy to somebody out there.